Nelson, you are a great artist, an original artist. And tell me your whole name, and your story as an artist.
So my name is Nelson da Silva Ferreira. I am a Portuguese artist born in Lisbon. And since very young, I wanted to be a painter, but I always had an interest as well in history, archaeology, anthropology. So my interest within the arts was not just about self-expression, but it was a much wider context. I wanted to know humanity through the arts. I think the arts are a fantastic mirror to explain society. Through the art, you understand civilizations. And there's many things that cannot be said that are evident when you look at an image. So essentially, my studies went from classical techniques starting in the West, but also Eastern styles of painting, such as the icons you have in here, which are from the Eastern tradition of Europe. I then studied also Indian miniature, Persian illumination, some Chinese painting, which I was not very good at, and many different styles of painting. I ended up specializing mostly on Renaissance painting methods, late Gothic, and 19th century academic art. But in my art, I always tried to bridge the past, the present, and the future. So I would love to be able to create something that archaeologists will not be able to pin down to a specific century. I want my artworks to transcend history, to transcend time. I don't want them to be dated within a local, regional style. So I don't want my art to be necessarily 21st century look, if that makes any sense. I like to merge and combine different influences. I love to mix unmixable combinations. And most importantly, I like to channel whatever I am feeling in that period of my life. So there is a lot that cannot be explained. There is a lot that is either intuitive or just accidental. But then I try to merge it into a complete body of work. I try to work in series if possible, otherwise the results will be too aleatory. Because within my nature is always to experiment different things. So you have to work as a series when you have this kind of personality.
In how you have invented these techniques?
So the classical Byzantine style informed the aesthetics of the modern paintings I am creating now. But I wanted to pay an homage to the past by using a technique of the future. And this was a promise I made to the director of a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Portugal, the Batalha Monastery. So I promised Dr. Joaquim Ruivo that I was going to pay an homage to the past by using a technique of the future. And then I started worrying because I didn't know which technique to use. Over a period of months, I did the exercises of The Artist's Way, which is a book. I created a group of artists where we were discussing the chapters of the book, The Artist's Way. And one of the exercises of the book is that as soon as you wake up, you write 3 pages of full stream of consciousness. So you do not censor any thought. Any thought that comes to your mind, you write it down. It's automatic writing. And then you don't read those texts for a few months. A few months later, when I reread the texts, I was absolutely mind blown because all the ideas were there and the whole technique of these paintings was described in the pages and I had no idea what I was doing. The unconscious already knew what was going to be my next style. The conscious didn't. So it's quite spectacular, and I recommend every single person to try to do automatic writing every morning, any thought that comes to your head. Do it for a few months. A few months later, when you read it back, you will be mesmerized by the information that is there.
But we begin in the ancient.
Yes. So pay an homage to the past by using the technique of the future. Yes.
And explain me, what is this photo, this
Painting.
This painting?
So I was based again on very recognizable images from the past. This one is from Hagia Sophia. It's a Pantocrator that is in Istanbul, in Hagia Sophia. And I took the other two from Russian icons. And essentially, I've painted the whole thing by using a technique I had never seen before. I don't have a name yet for this technique. It will come. It will come. And it will come when I least expect it. It's just going to happen. But what I've done is I work exclusively with the refraction of the light. So there are no real pigments on this image. It's a painting made without paint. It's a painting made without pigment. I've used materials that refract the light at different levels of diffraction and refraction. Things like diamond dust, different kinds of crystals, different kinds of glass, transparent substances. And what you see is a painting that appears and disappears according to the angle of the light. So as the light moves, or as you move in the room, the image appears and disappears. And it's a type of art that works particularly well in dark environments, in more intimist, nocturnal spaces, so to speak. It's more of a nocturnal kind of art. And it almost looks like someone is projecting an image onto a screen. It almost looks like cinema. But it's not, it's painted images. It's a painted image that looks like moving pictures. Looks like a projection.
We go to the next.
Do you want me here or there? Or maybe there if you want.
No, put there. And Russian is this.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have found this icon?
So these icons belong to the Menil Foundation in the United States. And I've heard of them through the greatest expert of icons in the United Kingdom, Richard Temple. He runs the Temple Gallery. And it was through Richard Temple that I have heard of these icons in the first place. And I've decided to pay an homage to the two great schools of iconography that you can find in the history of art. The first one is the Greek tradition, so the Byzantine tradition. The second one is the one in Eastern Europe, such as Russia and Bulgaria and many other parts of the world. So it's a combination of different styles, but actually you can see, if you go really close up, you can see all the different crystals attached to the surface of the icon, especially in close-ups. It works particularly well with geometric patterns. And the closer you get, the more you see the crystals. The United States are nowadays a country that has one of the best collections of icons in the world, because this specific aesthetic is very valued in the United States. Unlike Europe, in Europe it's considered démodé, outdated, old-fashioned, maybe because we came from here. It's part of our initial culture. But America is a new country, so in the United States, this type of images are extremely valued. The same way that classical European painting is much more valued in the United States than it is in Europe. So classical European painting is not popular in Europe, but it's exceedingly popular in the United States and many other countries. I could say China. I could say so many countries value these images much more than Europe at the moment. Because they are not popular in Europe, because they are not studied by most people, For example, if you do a degree in fine arts, they might talk about the Byzantine Empire in one lesson of history of art, maximum. You might spend 3, 4, 5, 6 lessons analyzing Jackson Pollock, and one lesson for the whole of the Byzantine Empire that lasted for more than 1,000 years. Because these styles are not popular, I decided to embrace them in my own artistic practice, because I think the role of an artist is also one potential role of an artist is also to raise awareness about certain things that are not being debated in society. That's one possible role of an artist. I don't believe in propaganda art, but we have that option if we want to. So I chose to go back to iconography and reinvent the style and also make it contemporary at the same time that I keep the classical canon of beauty.
We come to the next. Go near.
Here or there?
So, speak.
Oh, yeah, good idea. So these paintings were the result of a challenge raised by Andrea Sargent, where there would be paintings related to trees, to nature. And I've created these two pieces with marker pens. So I went back to the same technique I used for the icons, but instead of doing a more rendered result with the gradients, I went bolder and more graphic. Because there's also an exhibition of Japanese paintings here in this gallery, I chose to use the Japanese concept of notan. Notan is when you represent the whole of nature with just 2 or 3 colors. Well, classical notan, it's only 2 colors. It's light and dark, nothing else. I used about 3. So this idea of notan creates a very graphic look. And I also wanted to pay homage to the very long tradition of cartoons in Lucca, because this is the world center for comics. And in comic art, in cartoons, in animation, you work a lot with high contrast, bold strokes. I also teach Walt Disney artists how to draw better, industrial light and magic artists. So I've decided to pay homage to a more graphic kind of art, you know, less, let's say, sophisticated, but somehow more contemporary, more bolder than the classical aesthetics.
And I think now that this could be the art of the in the space, the navi spaziali.
Oh yes, a spatial art?
Yes.
Galactic art? Well, these paintings do indeed have the highest technology that I've ever used on any painting of my own doing. I love classical technique the most. I always paid homage to the old masters. I think we are nothing without the old masters. But eventually you reach a time in your life where you also want to leave your own trace. And sometimes you want to mark your own era, your own time. You want to document it. And I thought, why not create something with the latest technology that exists in terms of materials? And the latest technology in this case was to do paintings without paint, was to do paintings with just pure refraction of the light. Again, it's not the most photogenic type of art. It has to be seen live and in ideal light circumstances. Even these lights are not ideal. So ideally you would have projectors similar to theater with hard lights. And I am now creating huge paintings in this style to decorate palaces in the Middle East, where the lights are going to be chosen specifically for the room where the paintings will be displayed. And it makes a huge difference. because then the paintings become like apparitions. They appear and disappear as you move in the room. And because we are using spotlights of slightly different colors, as you move in the room, the painting changes color as well. So, of course, a gallery setting is not an ideal place to show this kind of art. This is made more for interior design, for site-specific, but the viewers can still have a good idea of how it looks like, especially with their little mobile phones. I think people do enjoy to turn on their phones, touch the phone to the nose, and see the painting appear suddenly. It's a nice experiment.
It's a strong emotion.
For some people it is. Most people tend to do it wrongly because they outstretch their arm, and if they do that, they don't see the image. But then if you tell them, oh, touch the nose with your phone, they look puzzled at you. They think you're making fun of them. And then when they touch, they're like, ah! And they look at the painting, you know. So there seems to be the ah reaction with most of the public.
In the next 50 years, how could be your art?
Oh, my art will mutate in very unpredicted ways. I like to change style all the time. So every time there is a new exhibition, I always exhibit radically different styles of painting. This has nothing to do with my previous exhibitions. And my previous exhibitions have nothing to do with the ones before those. So I am against this idea that you have to work always in the same style, like a brand of drinks. I am not a marketing product. I am a creative artist. Creative artists should change, should experiment new things. It's not an idea that sits well with the current art world. The current art world wants you to stay static in just one style, because then it can be marketed. Everything I do goes against marketing. I don't believe in it. Instead, I prefer to channel whichever aesthetic or emotion I am feeling in that moment, if that makes any sense. The process of channeling to me is much more important than what the public might think. I think an artist, number one, you must stay truthful to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Don't pretend that you like something you dislike just because the public likes it. I'm going to say something politically incorrect, but the public is irrelevant. What the public likes today, they will hate tomorrow. What the public hates today, they will love tomorrow. And the public changes their minds in 3 seconds, according to publicity. The public is utterly irrelevant. If you want to leave your name in the history of art, you have to make work that transcends the local taste of that moment. Otherwise, you're doomed, and you will be dated very quickly. My art is not meant to be dated. I want people to wonder, was this painted by a contemporary artist or by an old master? If this makes any sense to you. So, I do not know what kind of art I'll be doing in the next 50 years if I live until age 95. But I do hope that I will be as surprised by it as I have been surprised so far by the way I have mutated and evolved over time.
Thanks, Nelson.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Your art came in the 3rd millennium.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Good luck.